I'm Soldado. I'm 24 years old, born and raised in the UK, Pakistani heritage. Been making music for about 10 years this August. Produced for Keem, Uzi, ASAP Ferg, Migos, a bunch of people. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay. So I've been really looking forward to this.
I know I kept
You
pushing it
know,
back, bro. I'm sorry.
oh, it's all, no, don't be sorry, man. No, honestly, I have that. I find, you know, the more, the better, the more excited I am almost. It's like, I'm willing to wait. I know a lot of people are busy too. There's a guy that I've been trying to get on for so long, and his schedule is so crazy that it still hasn't happened. But like, it's no problem. I really don't mind. I appreciate you taking the time regardless.
No, for sure.
Uh,
I kind of wanted to push it till after Ramadan was done because, like,
yeah,
every time I was scheduling, I was like, damn, that's like half an hour until it's time to eat. I'm gonna have to cut it.
yeah, no, I'm sure. Yeah, and I totally get that, man. Eid Mubarak, by the way. I know it just passed.
Mubarak. Appreciate that.
Um,
Appreciate that.
of course, yeah. Uh, yeah, man. There's so many avenues I could go, but let's maybe talk about something more recent. I'll get into your credits and your producing and all that, but one of the things that I find really interesting is you yourself, I know, said that you're trying to expand your personal brand a little more now.
Yeah.
Just get your face out there more, which I really respect. I think that's something that every producer should, at least consider. Um, and not only that, but while you said you were doing that, you kind of also you went you went on, I want to say, maybe a religious journey. I don't want to put too much
Yeah.
up in the air, put too many words on it. I want you to describe it. But um, how did that come about? Was this something that you had planned for a while? And even the fact that you shared part of that online, was that something that you had maybe expected to be doing, or did it all just kind of come about naturally?
So I went to Saudi Arabia in February for, I want to say, just over 2 weeks. It's from the 9th until the 26th. So it was for Umrah. So it's kind of like it was a religious spiritual trip. You're right in saying that. As far as planning, I think maybe towards the end of last year, we decided to go because I went with my family for that. As far as sharing
Right.
it online, yes and no, because I feel like having it online is also kind of like a cool insight into my life beyond music. I feel like being a Muslim is quite a key part of who I am. And
Mm.
also just like the architecture and stuff in Saudi is amazing. Like even without the religious aspect, I still think it's a cool thing for people to see just how like the Arabs are doing stuff over there.
Yeah.
And it's a cool place for me to document everything if I ever want to like just look back and see the good times. Hopefully get to go back soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, everyone that goes there, I only hear good things, to be honest. I have a couple friends that actually moved there a while ago, really close friends of mine. My mom grew up there as well.
Oh, fast.
Um, yeah, yeah. So, uh, and also I do recall hearing it recently, and I know that Saudi Arabia is trying to put more of an emphasis on their, just tourism and image. I don't know where I heard that from, but either way, that's nor here or there. Um, I think, first of all, the reason I brought that up is because I think to go from wanting to expand your personal brand and just share more of your life to sharing that part is really interesting to me, because a lot of people, that's a very intimate part, I find. And so the fact that you're willing to be able to share that as a producer in the industry where you don't always see people necessarily, you see people talking about religion, but it's not necessarily at the forefront of what we're looking at
Yeah,
every
no, for
day.
sure.
So I think that's really, really interesting, and I was really yeah, I was inspired by that. I thought that was awesome. Uh,
Appreciate it, man.
so
Thank you.
talk, of course, man. Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me about, I mean, I want to get into the role religion has played in your life and music specifically.
Yeah,
We can get into that later if you want.
yeah, for sure.
I'm willing to discuss both. I don't want to focus too much on one thing at the start. I want to kind of give people a sense of who you are in general. I
Yeah,
do want to say though, just for the audience, Soldado is one of my favorite sample makers. I'm not trying to gas you up or anything because you're on the podcast. This is honest, God's honest truth. Um, your samples are insane. And and I saw an email recently where you were like, I think it was the April packs, and you sent out like an insane amount of packs, and then you were like, "Yeah, sorry, I know, I don't know." Like it
Yeah, I was
was
just
like
like,
something in the
I don't know
subject.
how I've got to this many packs, but we just gonna keep it rolling.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I feel like weirdly during Ramadan, because I was only making stuff outside of my fast. So like dead of
uh,
the night, I'm on like Batman. I was just working on stuff. Um,
yeah,
ideas just kept coming. I was knocking out maybe five, six samples every couple of days. And I find with sending out samples, smaller packs tend to be like better received. Because maybe
hmm,
last year I was sending out maybe 10, 15 a week in like weekly
yeah,
packs. But I was only ever getting flips of like three of them back. So it's like nine are just wasted or like not flipped or
hmm,
anything. I feel like when people got a bit more of a condensed pack, then they can kind of pay attention to everything.
yeah. I actually really appreciate you saying that because I think about that stuff all the time, and I almost overthink it because I don't, I haven't sent samples out consistently, not even close to as much as you have. So when I am doing it, I do wonder, like, oh, am I, because I know the way that I view sample packs and I receive them, and I usually, you're right, if they're smaller, I tend to pay more attention to the samples themselves and make more utility of what's actually in there rather than looking at a giant folder.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I kind of made that decision because I was noticing how I receive packs myself. Because obviously, I do samples and drums, so I get samples as much as I send them out. And I also catch myself if I get like a 20, 30 pack of samples, skimming through samples. And a lot of the time, the
yeah.
way I do my samples is they're more like compositions, like songs themselves. So the crazy part might not be at the start of the sample. But if I send you 20 of those, who's got the patience to listen to about
Mm,
40, 45 minutes of music?
yeah. I, this is something that I used to all again, like the composition thing. When I first started making, like, I used to make these orchestral samples some years ago, and I was still learning and experimenting, but the arrangement was a big part of it.
Mm,
And that was one thing that kind of it got me because I knew that producers a lot of the time they don't always listen to, long enough in that they would get to the part that, that they can really start to feel what I've just made.
yeah.
Um, so that is an interesting insight. I think that's cool. Is there anything you've done with arrangement in that regard to try and make sure that certain parts are earlier, or are you just you're not even focused on that? Because I feel like people, at least me, I know your samples now,
Yeah.
so I know to listen. Make sure to actually take a listen through.
Yeah. I know they've definitely got a few people that are like, whenever I send a pack, they're definitely going to listen to everything. It's kind of like an artistic thing for me, really. Like, I could rearrange the sample so, like, the hook part or the crazy part is at the start. And I do that sometimes, but sometimes I just think, nah, it sounds like super good as it is. I'm just going to send it out the way that I want it to. And, the people who decide to listen through, the payoff is there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, take me back to when you first started making music. Like, how did that come about? What got you started, and where did you start?
Yeah, for sure. So 2013, because I remember I made all my socials around the same time that I decided to start making beats. So 2013, I was still in school. I had one guy who was from the same hometown that I'm from, which is Luton. He's the only other guy in the
Mm,
school that that came from the same place as me. So we would all get this long bus ride home. Like my school was far; it was like an
mm,
hour and a half away on the bus, like dumb
wow.
far. So
Yeah,
we normally would just like he'd always have his laptop on him. We'd like watch movies, just listen to music, like just
that's
talk on the
awesome.
bus. One day
Mm,
I see him making beats on FL on his laptop. And I'm
mm,
thinking he's making beats off of like what 30, 40 pound headphones and a regular laptop. Like it didn't look like an Alienware or anything else. It was just a regular laptop. But he was making beats on there. I thought it was cool. So I
mm.
downloaded a copy of FL. We're legit now, but we all got to start with the crack copies
Yeah, oh,
sometimes.
I'm yeah, same
But,
way. Yeah, 100%.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I tried and failed a few times. I'm not gonna lie. Like a couple times I just wasn't getting the swing of it, so I kind of put FL away, went and did some other stuff. But I remember the summer of 2013, I was linking up with people on TeamViewer, like doing collabs over the internet with people. and
Wow.
kind of picking up little tips and tricks and getting a swing of it. So I kind of just stuck to it from there as far as making beats goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even the team viewer thing, like how did you find those people to collab with and get the idea of being in a collaborative environment through team viewer?
That was kind of just the thing people were doing at the time. Like I was linking up
Mm,
with people through Twitter mainly. I didn't really get
right.
onto Instagram until like a few years later. Twitter was kind of always my main platform. And it'd just be as simple as following a producer, they follow back, DM them, let's work, and you know the rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And TeamViewer was just kind of like the thing at the time. Like I know nowadays most people be doing cookups through like Discord and stuff. TeamViewer was like,
Mm,
connect to someone else's
yeah.
computer and you can cook up on their computer, control the mouse, pass the mouse. Like it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I never used it myself. But I always wondered about how smooth, like was it smooth enough that it was actually a pretty solid process?
I feel like there'd be some latency, but like you could definitely work with it. And for me as
That's
well, because
dope.
it was like super, super early stages and there weren't really that many tutorials as well. That was kind of where I was picking up, like, how to chop hi hats quickly, time stretching samples, like small things like that. I really picked up just watching other people work on TeamViewer. And at the same time, we were making beats together. So I was building my catalog a little bit. It
Mm,
was cool. It's a cool time.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense too. Like learning that way is way, way better than really any other way to learn. Like actually having people working with you and doing it in front of your face.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh yeah. Um what caused you to continue making beats? Like was there a certain goal with it? Was it just an outlet for you? What kept you going?
I'd say it was an outlet, really. I didn't really have like the industry at mind when I started making beats. I remember one thing that really kept me going or like made me want to pursue it a bit more seriously was I got a placement with ILoveMakonnen like 2014 back in the day.
Mm,
Um,
wow.
I remember I was like, I couldn't sleep. So I just opened my laptop and opened Twitter. And I'd seen he posted like that minute, he'd posted a tweet saying send beats and an email. So I was like, all right, cool.
Oh.
Say less. I'll send off some beats. One of them, he emailed back. I feel like because I was just one of the first people to send the email, that's why he checked it. But he emailed back like Dodging 12 is the one. Like I'd named the beat that. And then I think a couple weeks later, Dodging 12 came out on SoundCloud. People loved it,
Yo.
and I was like, "Damn, that's
Mm.
my like first placement." It's pretty cool.
I have to go write that down because I love McConan. I know that's actually his name, but I do love him as an artist. And I didn't know you produce for him.
Yeah,
And I don't know if I've ever heard that song, so I'm gonna look that up real quick. I just want to write it down for myself. That's dope.
that was like Drink More Water 4 era when he was doing all the stuff with like Metro, TM,
Oh,
Southside. That's kind of
that's
what
so
that's kind
dope.
of what put me onto him, and then getting that song. It later got remixed on Drink More Water 5, and it had Young Gleesh and Fredo Santana R.I.P. on there,
Right. Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah.
which was sick to me
That's
because
that is amazing. Yeah.
I was listening to like Fredo Santana and Chief Keef before I started making beats.
Yeah. Man, getting a Fredo placement back then would have been. I mean, even at any point, but that would that's huge.
Yeah, I was gassed as
Um.
hell. I was like 15,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah. Exactly.
Watching
Yeah.
the
That's
live
crazy.
mixtapes. Back in the day, they had like countdowns for mixtapes on live mixtapes, and every 5 minutes a
Right.
song would unlock. I remember standing over my
Mm.
laptop in school uniform, just waiting for my song to unlock so I could listen to it.
That's amazing, bro. That is such a cool. It's just a cool insight, like to think about that. Even the bus story is really cool. Like, there's a guy there. Ryan Bevolo?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ryan's hard.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and him, we've known each other for a while, just through producing internet, whatever.
Yeah,
And that was one of the things I found so cool about Ryan was that this guy was always working, and this was I think we were both in high school at the time, and I sent him some melodies, whatever, and he sent me some beats back really fast. And I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, the mix sounds a little off." I was just like, "I made it on the bus," and I was like, "What?" And then he explained his whole like how he makes so much, like his output, and it just was ways that I hadn't really thought about or was doing. Like I never made beats on a laptop on a bus. I had my laptop. I never did it on the bus, but he was just always on. And he's still like that.
Nah, he still sends
Um,
back stuff crazy fast. I made a couple beats with his samples recently, like some drill stuff.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
no,
He him.
no, sorry,
Mhm.
I didn't mean to cut you off. My fault.
No, no, no. Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think I ever made a beat on the bus. I think I've done it on the plane a couple times. 0 out of 10 experience. I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
It'd be noisy as hell on that bus and headphones on all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah, just wait until you're
Yeah.
off the plane. My
See, I
best
feel that. Like
opinion.
that's what I feel, but I don't want to. Like I feel like now when when I see people doing, I'm like, I'm just making excuses. Like, they seem to be doing fine. So, but
Yeah,
I'm with you
nah.
on that.
I mean, yeah, everyone's a little bit different. Personally, I'll
Yeah.
wait till I'm off that plane or that bus.
Nah, for sure.
But it's
Nah, yeah, I
very
can't.
fire that his work ethic's like that, honestly. I appreciate people that send flips back quickly too.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, live mixtapes. Take me. I'm actually curious. What are your some of your favorite mixtapes or even albums? You can go either one, but I'm curious to see what type of stuff you were listening to at that time.
Mixtapes and albums, this is always a question that kills me. I can never
Yeah.
I remember like one mixtape that I was listening to, well, really just an artist I was listening to loads in school was like
Mm.
Mixtape Future, like
Oh
Astronaut
man,
Status,
don't get me
FBG the
started.
movie. Like this is
Yeah,
before his like monster run where he just, hasn't
yeah.
fallen off since, just been running since
Hmm.
2014. But FBG the movie, Astronaut Status, Streets Calling. I was listening to all of those. Like I thought it was
Astronaut
fire.
Status was one of my favorites, bro.
Jordan Diddy is probably my favorite song off of that
Jordan
tape.
Diddy, bro.
Jordan Diddy is such a banger, bro. You don't understand.
I always quote, bruh. I'm telling you right now, like 2 weeks ago, I quote that song all the time just for fun. Like I'll just throw, I was talking to someone and I just kind of like jokingly sent, what was it? It's a line from the song. It's like, I'm in the club shooting jump shots or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was just such a, like, I don't know, at the time that line just hit. Like,
Nah, Jordan
yeah,
Diddy's a big
it's a great
banger.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else really? I remember there were a lot of like compilation tapes at the time. Like there was this one DJ, I think it was like Tape Masters or something, and he was just
Mm,
dropping like hella Drake compilations, Lil Wayne compilation tapes. Like I
mm,
was really listening to a lot of rap like back then.
for
So
sure.
like DJ Khaled was dropping albums left, right, and center, hella hits. Like I'm on one. What else? I was listening to a lot of other stuff as well. Like I had a Toro y Moi phase at some point. Like
Oh,
a lot of like
cool. Yeah.
alternative stuff. I feel like that's kind of why I like choosing weirder sounds for my samples. Sometimes I
Hmm.
just make a lot of like experimental samples. That's really just when I can't think of a genre for it, but it sounds like a cool melody.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much just mixtapes and random SoundCloud songs for the most part.
For sure. Yeah, I appreciate that because I think I wanted to get a bit of an insight as to what types of things you were, growing up listening on. Because I find we're always inspired by the things that were listening to back then, as opposed to now. Like we're more, I at least find I'm drawing more from back then than I do from current
Yeah,
things that I'm listening to. Take me through some of your sample process. I just want to know more. I think your sound selection is immaculate. It's
appreciate
hard
that.
for me to, of course, yeah. It's hard for me to like. It's hard for me to understand how. I mean, I know it comes with experience and practice, but for someone to be consistently having such great sound selection is, I think, a really, really impressive skill. It inspires me. So what do you do in your process of sound selection? Are you going purely off feel, or is there, are there things that you're doing, or was there a process that led you to have the sound selection that you do?
Just before I answer that, just so no one
Yeah.
slates me in the comments, pretty sure I said Tori Moy instead of Moi. That's my bad. But
Oh, bro, it's all good. That's
I
good
just
you
thought
caught
that
that.
the
That's actually
second I said that, I
impressive.
was like, damn. My biggest producing inspiration was Metro, so I feel like his
Mm.
sound selection definitely inspired my own. Like I like, creepy keys. Bell tones are probably like when I get a one shot pack, I'm probably going straight to the bell sounds first, like every time.
Uh,
Um, As far as sound selection goes, I really like one shots over VSTs these days because
Wow.
I like using accents, pads. Um, I feel like the coolest thing with one shots is you can take one like instrument and make it into something completely different. Like you
Hmm.
can turn a bell sound into a bass sound, you can turn a key sound into a pad sound. Like if you just manipulate with effects and ADSR on the envelope, like there's a lot you can do that you can't really do with a VST without a lot more work, pretty much. Like I feel like
Right.
in FL, being able to do like glides in the melody is way easier with one shots than it is like within a VST. Like I still
Yeah,
don't
for
know if you
sure.
can manipulate like portamento times to be different between certain keys. I feel like it's still pretty
Right.
even in VSTs, but you can get super down to the details with just the piano roll and a one shot.
That's a really good way. That's a really good selling point for one shots. I always ask sample makers how they're because I use one shots not as much. I still I don't know. I find like it's not something I'm too used to. So when I'm processing them, I feel weird about like the way that they might come out, or I don't know. Like it's not. I think it's just honestly practice. Because I think you have to be careful with I guess certain notes with one shots, right? But uh, yeah, like is there a certain type of processing you're doing for the one shots, as you're working with them, or things you're paying attention to?
I guess processing like as far as like what the effects chain or like what I'm doing with
Yeah,
the
because
one
I
shots.
understand like the attack and the release and the delay, that
Yeah,
part. But in terms of, yeah, effects, are you putting like a decent amount on, or are you kind of, because I know a lot of one shots do come with their own,
yeah, it
pre-processed
really depends.
sound.
Sometimes I do like really dry one shots just so I can kind of throw as much as I can at it and see what happens. Like I use, the same stuff as everyone else. We've got Portal, we've got RC20, Valhalla Vintage Reverb, like a whole bunch. But there's a few plugins that I really like messing around with that I don't see that often. I think Cymatics makes some sick plugins. Like Lotus is, I think it's pitched as like a Therme VST. Like if you can't get the Therme pedal, Lotus is like
Mm,
your next best bet.
that's really interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing. So
Yeah, I also like damn, what's that company called? Freak Show Industries. They've got a bunch of
yes,
cool VSTs. Like Backmask is easily my favorite, like reversing VST for
it's
sure.
crazy.
Um,
Yeah, and it's a good price too.
yeah, I mean, it's a good price, and they even give you the option to have it for free if you really can't afford it. Like their
Yeah,
website's
yeah,
got a buy button and then a steal button. And you just have to
yeah.
answer like a questionnaire, and then they'll just give you a license.
That's
Um,
amazing. Yeah, they're
I've
dope.
I've bought Backmask and Dumpster Fire is another one, which
Okay.
is really interesting because you kind of have to work like it comes with no presets. You kind of have to tweak the knobs that they give you in order to get something usable, but it adds so
Hmm.
much, like so much texture to whatever you put in there. It's honestly crazy. And again, because I
Yeah.
feel like the cheaper slash free plugins tend to get slept on a lot. I feel like people assume big price tag VST equals best sound, but the low
Hmm.
key ones are where you're going to find like sound design and FX that will set you apart from everyone else. You almost want to try not to use the big name plugins because you know everybody in their dog's got them.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man, that's so real. That's a gem right there. I find, and that me too, like I think a lot of producers, especially starting out, like, they want to follow certain trends, and that makes sense why they would want to look up to people, right? But
Yeah,
definitely keeping that in mind, like I agree, because especially again early on when you don't might not have the budget, you also don't want to be cashing out on like a million VSTs when you could go for a cheaper option that would serve you maybe even better than the expensive one.
yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first started making beats, I probably fell into the same trap. Like I wanted all the tone 2 stuff, Gladiator, Electra, Nemesis, Contact. Contact was always a really big staple in my production. That hasn't changed over like the time I've been producing. I
For
feel like as
sure.
long as I've got Contact and Omnisphere, I'm cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and Contact, I could that makes total sense. I mean, I feel like with your orchestral samples, that's kind of like it's a must, right? Would I be wrong in saying that?
No, you'd be right in saying that, but I feel like I use Contact more for synth stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like all of like Back Hurt was made purely using Contact, and it was from
Wow.
this Austrian company. I want to say I might be wrong, but they're called Insasuro. They make just pad banks, like
Hmm.
100 to 200 different presets in each bank of just pads. But I was always like turning them into plucks, taking layers out. Like I was really just going into there and kind of making my own stuff out of it. And those are my favorite
Yeah.
banks. I'm not gonna lie. Like they were easily
That's
one of
really
my
cool.
staples for making beats from 2014 up to 2016, 17. I
Hmm.
feel like Contact has a lot of slept on banks, and they're not even super hard to find. It's just, again, people tend to go for the banks that they have seen, heard. But there's some crazy synth stuff out there. Another one I've been
Hmm.
using recently, a little bit newer, Sample Logic Synth AI. Super hard
Mm-hmm.
bank, like crazy ops, crazy keys, and a lot of like what's the word? You can do a lot of manipulation within the GUI. Like the effects rack is pretty cool. The step animator
Hmm.
is cool. Like you can tweak the up so you can change octaves and how many steps and whatnot. Like it's a fire bank.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, you just dropped so many gems. These are all new. Like a lot of these are super new to me. So I'm gonna have to, and not just that, the idea of just, branching out from the norm and trying these like almost obscure ones or ones that won't be as popular is so cool. It's a good refresher for sure. Take me through some more of your placements then. How did some more of your placements come about? Which ones meant, what, and how did it progress? And I'm also curious to know. Actually, I'll ask that next. I have another question for you. That
No,
yeah,
for sure, for sure.
yeah. Go ahead.
Placements that I'm proud of. Gotta be Back Hurt, like number one on the list, because that was a big
Hmm.
moment for me. That was final year of school. Um, that was my first major album placement. It was a big moment for sure. It was the first time I got like I remember getting like a contract and an advance and everything for a song. That was like my first real taste of being in the industry. And I was like, I want to say 17, going on 18 at the time. So yeah, it felt like a surreal moment. And the song was a banger as well. Like it was a
Hmm.
cool moment. That what else was like a big moment for me? I think another big moment for me was doing the Route to UK EP with Larry June. That was super
Hmm.
fire as well. Again, that was while I was in school. He had just done a tape with TM88, and he'd done a tape with my boy from Spain called Steve Lean. That kind of put me on to Larry. He was doing like just trap stuff at the time, and I'd hit him up to just send over beats. We started working together, and he was like, "Let's do an EP, Route to UK," because he did Route to Spain with Steve Lean.
Hmm.
So I was like, "Bet," and that's the first time I can say that I've ever like made a whole project with someone.
Yeah. Were you intimidated at all, or was that just
No, I
nah?
thought it
I'm
was
ready for
fire.
this.
I was ready to go.
That's dope. Yeah, that's amazing.
I'm trying to think other placements. Like I'm pretty proud of all of my placements because I've always said to myself that I want to make music where if I didn't produce, I would still tune into those songs. Like I
Right.
don't want to just make beats or make samples that will get placed with XYZ person, but it's not someone I would listen to. Like
Right.
if you had a playlist of all of my placements that are out right now, I want to feel like if I didn't make music, I'd still have all them songs in my library.
Hmm.
So to be honest, I can't really point to any one song that I'm not proud of, but those three moments, the Makonnen one, Back Hurt, and doing Route to UK, they're definitely like three key moments for me for sure.
That makes a ton of sense. Um, has there been any moments throughout your journey where you've been like, okay, I think that's like I'm gonna put music to the side, that's it for me, or has that not happened since you started?
That hasn't happened for me yet. I still
Really
get like
interesting.
I take breaks sometimes, like, creative block. I've tried
Mm,
thinking of all the different crazy ways to inspire myself, and tell you the truth, when creative block hits, take a couple days off, go to the gym,
yeah,
do something else, like come back to it. You'll have hella ideas. It happens to everyone. But as far as like
yeah,
taking a real extended break, I haven't done that yet. I think the most was probably like a month. Like when I was in Saudi, I wasn't working on music. I kind of told everyone while I'm, on a religious
right.
spiritual flex, don't really hit me up unless it's life or death for music.
Mm.
But yeah, haven't had that yet. Hopefully doesn't come anytime soon.
One of the things that I find really fascinating with any producer that, uh, with any producer that has it, and I notice it in people around me, because if I'm getting sent packs, like for example yours, if I'm getting sent quality on quality at pack after pack consistently without fail, there that speaks volumes to me, and I want to know more. I want to like, how does this person reach that point? And I know it's different for everybody. um Work ethic wise, like what is, or not even ethic, just work schedule wise, like what do your days normally look like? I know you said with Ramadan it was different, obviously you were up at night, but
Yeah.
on a regular, do you have any sort of regular schedule that you might rock with day to day, or is it kind of all over the place?
I don't really have a schedule per se. I kind of have daily goals, like what I'm trying to achieve by the end of the day. So I'll take note of, like, I'll go through my texts and see who sent me like pitch lists, or artists are looking for this, or like just kind of gather everything I've gotten through the last week, and then I'll write all of that down on my whiteboard. Honestly, having a whiteboard is like game changer for me. I'd forget so much
Mm,
stuff if I didn't have one. But I really just try and like tick off as much as I can off of that, as far as like projects to focus on. And then for myself, I keep it simple. I try and make like one or two beats and one or two samples a day. Like I don't try and like go over that as much. If I do, then sick. But I feel like as long as I'm getting a couple done every day of both beats and samples, things will keep moving.
mm, yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, I think consistency is really the king and the key for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, some
Yeah,
days I'll have like 5 or 6 sample days. Like they don't come super, super often, but some days like everything's just clicking. I've got like
yeah,
amazing starters to work with that are just inspiring hella counter melodies. Like some days the work ethic is on 10, but
yeah.
average day, as long as I'm getting a couple on each side done, I'm cool. It's good enough for me.
Yeah. And so talk to me about the starters actually. I'm curious. That's something that, like, with starters I really I haven't delved into, like, if someone sends me starters, I haven't really built my own loops around them. I've been meaning to, but
Yeah.
it's I like usually I just make my own stuff alone.
Yeah.
Um like when you say starters, I'm assuming they are sent to you by other people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
So
there anyone, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
for starters, I tend to make a lot of samples myself as well. I'd say the majority of my samples are solo. But I got a few people I like working with a lot. I've been doing a bunch of Cubeatz has been sending me some crazy stuff recently. Who else?
Yeah.
Max Shooter, my boy Matt Curry. He's from Italy. Super insane stuff. Like he's just got
Mm,
access to a bunch of like crazy synths, tape machines. So the stuff he sends always like has a real vintage feel to it, which is kind of like my
mm,
favorite type of melody to make.
yeah.
But I really work with a lot of people. I feel bad that I can't name everyone like right now,
Oh, it's
but
a no.
those are
You're
definitely
good.
three that stand out to me. But everyone who sends me stuff, I fuck with all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, when we think about, like, okay, let's say a producer's coming to you and they're asking for advice, like, what do I, what kinds of things should I be doing when I'm starting out? I know it's a very generic question,
Yeah.
but do you have your insight or your perspective on what kinds of things a producer should and maybe shouldn't be focusing on? And you can also expand that to artists if you see trends with artists as well.
Yeah, for sure. I always feel like this question, it really depends on what a producer's goal is. So I feel like there's two
Mm,
main like lanes I see producers go. It's either industry or BeatStars YouTube. And I feel like both come with different goals for the most part. You can sometimes do both. A lot of people do both. But I would just say it's corny. Everyone says this shit. But when you
mm,
start, have fun with it, because when you're learning to make music and you're first making beats, that's going to be the most fun time out of like all of producing.
mm,
Music is like 10% of the battle once you're like in the industry. The rest of it is paperwork and red tapes and all that boring shit. Have fun with
mm,
making music. Don't limit yourself to one genre. Recreate songs that you like, just to try and like reverse engineer the melody, the bounce. Like, it's a good way to like help you understand how arrangement works, how laying down a drum pattern works, how many layers a melody needs to have while keeping space for the artist. Like, reverse engineering songs is a dope way to get to know all of that.
mm,
And nowadays we've got like better tools than ever to figure that out as well. Like, we've got AI that can basically give you stems for any song you throw into it.
mm,
So I feel like there's never been a better time to start trying to make music. Forget anybody else that's talking about, oh, it's oversaturated. There's loads of producers now.
mm.
It don't matter, because none of them are going to be making what you make if you try and stand out and do your own thing.
Yeah.
If you just want to make 4PF loops all day, you're going to be in the boat with the rest of the people that make 4PF loops all day. If you're trying to make just pain stuff all day, you're going to be right there with a
Yeah.
million other people making pain loops all day. Try and step out the box a little bit. Try do some different shit. By all means, even try and do the 4PF and pain stuff, by all means. But see if you can put a spin on it.
Yeah.
Because if you do it successfully, you're going to make a big mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I think so interesting is like people are almost opposed to getting some people are almost opposed to getting inspired by certain, things like I used to also be like I used to be careful where I was drawing inspiration from or how,
Yeah,
but now I've expanded that totally. Like I'll bring songs into my FL and I'll see like how the chord progression's going, and then I'll play. I'll start trying to play it, but by the end of even doing the basic chord progression, I've already done a different chord progression. It's on my own spin on it. I'm happy with it. And sometimes I'm going for maybe like a like it might usually not 4PF for me, but like some type of sound,
yeah,
and when I aim so hard at that sound, I realize that I end up just putting my own spin on it anyways, and it doesn't even sound like that, but it sounds like something maybe cooler or just something more unique with
exactly.
with
And that's a good way of doing it, because I do something similar as well. Like, sometimes when I'm trying to make vintage stuff, what I'll do is I'll listen to a bunch of like 70s, 80s like movie soundtracks, like
mm,
all of those like random YouTube channels that just constantly upload 70s and 80s like deep cuts. I'll download one, I'll throw it into FL, and I'll kind of like by ear try and hear all the layers and try and make something that kind of sounds similar to that. I'm never
mm,
able to get it 100%, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, because by the time I take that sample out and listen to what I have, I've easily got a good basis to make something from there, from scratch.
mm,
So
that
I
makes
feel like
sense.
using other songs and just any, I feel like all inspiration is good inspiration. There's not really bad inspiration out there.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
take from wherever you want to take from. Sometimes it don't even need to be music that gets you inspired. Sometimes just watching a new movie you ain't seen, or going
Mm,
to a different place you haven't been, will inspire your brain to come up with different things.
yeah.
And I feel like that's probably
Absolutely.
the best thing to do for beat block, really. Try and do
Mm,
something different, watch something different, hit the gym to kind of refresh yourself. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do for inspo now beyond just listening to different music.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um what's something that someone can do, what's a trait that someone can have that I you mentioned one thing, which is when you really appreciate when people send you things back,
Yeah.
like on a timely in a timely manner. I've heard that from a ton of people who send out samples. um what other traits, or what are some maybe central traits that you're more drawn to with people that you're working with? And then what are some traits that, or maybe things that you see that maybe you're not, you see it and you're not so inclined to work with that person?
Yeah, for sure. So stuff that makes me want to work with you, show some personality for real. Be funny, have fun with stuff on Insta, on Twitter. Like, just if you seem less like a person and no, like more like a person, sorry, and less like a bot, I'm probably gonna want to work with you. I feel like some
Mm,
people are straight music, 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 music 24/7. And if you're on the grind and everything, that's cool. But I find for me, the best music comes from working with my friends. People
yeah.
I could call, I could text, we could chop it up about every other thing but music, and we'll still make some fire stuff. Like, I personally feel like getting a good relationship with a person is a key to making good music with them. So
Hmm.
have fun, don't be stiff. That's probably an easy way for me to want to work with you.
Real.
On the flip
Hmm.
side of that, the elitist stuff, the Hollywood shit, big no no for me. I ain't trying to work with you if you're on that.
Mm.
Like, if you're one of them man who's waiting to get their first placement so you can unfollow everyone, cut out.
Yo,
I'm off it.
it's crazy how fast it happens
Bro,
too.
I'm thinking like you're gonna be stuck in a year's time when that song is done,
Yeah,
and you're wondering where the next one is, and you've burned all your bridges.
yeah,
Like, there's no
yeah.
point in doing that. Don't close your door on anybody because you don't know who's next. That one person that
Facts.
you didn't reply to one time could be it the next year. He could be him the next year.
Hmm. That's so real, man. That is so real. Like, even I mean, it's and people notice that. Like when move a little bit weird, or like that, people ease like it's noticed, right? And especially like if you've had connections that you've had when you started, or earlier on, you those are usually connections you want to keep for after. You don't want to rid yourself of the connections you made before you went up,
Yeah, you don't
or
have to
before you
cut
got one big
everybody off
placement.
now that you've got like a big
Yeah,
placement or something. If
yeah,
anything, those people are the people you should be keeping around because you're gonna get a lot
exactly,
of fake love when you get a big placement as well.
exactly.
It's a ton of
Yeah,
people that'll DM me that I ain't spoke to in months, even years. Like, oh, proud of you, bro. This, that, and the third.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
my fault.
No, no, you're good, bro.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that hit you up talking about bro, and I'm like, yeah, your bro pass has expired. You got to reapply,
Yeah,
bro. It's been like a year
yeah.
since you last hit me up. All of a sudden now
Facts.
I'm your best friend. Nah,
Yeah,
you want to keep the people that were rocking with you before all of that because those people are genuine people. They fucked with you for who you are. Don't switch up on them now.
for sure. Yeah, and that's I mean, yeah, I've seen it time and again. We see it now too. It's pretty crazy to see. I wanted to ask about school actually. So a lot of people have, a lot of produce. I mean, not just producers. Anybody with an art creative outlet, I find a lot of them might be in school or doing things on the other side.
Yeah,
And you told me before we started this that you were actually, I mean, I can cut this out if it's too personal, but like you have a law degree, so you've clearly went through enough of formal education while making music as well. How did you draw about, like, was there any balance during that time, and was it the same thing of kind of just, I've set my daily goals, these are the things I'm looking forward to, and
yeah.
go
I
from
mean, it
there?
was definitely the first year of uni was a bit rough, trying to just like gauge that balance. But as it went on, I found it a lot easier. For me, I'm not really a lecture person like that. Like, now that I've got my grades and everything, I can say this: my attendance was crap towards the end of my degree. Barely
Yeah.
went to any of those lectures because they were all recorded. So I found for
Oh yeah.
me, I like just going in, watch the recordings, in and out, get everything I need off of those. I can't sit in a lecture for 1, 2, 3 hours a day. I get bored.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I found that by doing the recorded lectures, I was kind of able to just keep my schedule going. Like, I was definitely still working on stuff like most days, if not all days, and still managing to balance like degree life with it. My master's was a different story. Master's was super, like, it wasn't hard, it was just a lot of content. Definitely saw a
Mm.
slower output from me in 2021.
That makes
It
sense.
gets like that. Sometimes you just have to keep trucking on with it. I feel like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people who are in the industry, like you said, will also be kids in school, in a degree. Like even yourself, you said you just did your final exam before we jumped on here. Like
Mm-hmm.
it can be tough to find that balance between like life and music, I want to say, because it's all part of life really. Just
Mm-hmm.
try and prioritize what needs to be prioritized at the time. If you've got exams coming up, it's all right to take some time away from music and focus on those. Similarly, once them exams are done, now you can make up for lost time and go hard. Like it's all
Right.
about balance. Don't feel like you have to keep both at 100% all the time, or you're gonna burn yourself
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah. I appreciate that advice honestly, because that resonates with me as absolutely. Um, what is next for Soldado? Because you have a decent, I don't want to say, I mean, you can always work with more people like there, but you have some incredible placements. You've got some good networks. You've got, it looks like a decent amount of following. Like a lot of people really mess with you. Um, and even bro, like I had a song with an artist that I did like here, an artist that I was developing here on your loop, and
Yeah, yeah,
we always go through your loops. Yours are always like, I have a few people that are at the top of my list when I'm working with artists. Of course it depends on the artist, but yours are pretty. I can pull them up in any session, and people are gonna rock with them. So
that's fire to hear. That's super
yeah,
fire
no,
to hear.
it's true, bro. I'm not trying to gas you. Like I said, it's exactly how they go. Um, so I mean, like you have some really good stuff going for you, and you have for some time now. What's next for you? What are your next goals, and maybe what are your even like longer term goals, if you have those sorted?
Yeah, so I feel like when I started out the year, my because I had a different interview like at the top of the year where someone asked me the same question, and my answer was more, like just more content, more music, more collaboration. That's just as far as
Mm-hmm.
music goes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I do a few other things as well. Like I'm into, crypto, reselling, a whole bunch of other stuff. Like try and keep those businesses running. Um, as far as life goes, more traveling, more new experiences, and hopefully sharing that with everyone as well. Because the reason why I made such a big shift to like try and push myself as a person more rather than just here's the song, here's the beat, go for it kind of
Right.
thing. I saw a lot of people online getting scared about AI. A lot of people
Yeah.
online getting scared about AI at the moment. And while it is true, there might be one day we could press like one button, type one thing in, and just get a fully like perfect finished product. A, that place is far away from now, and B, the only thing AI can't be is a brand. It can't be you. It
Mm-hmm.
can't be Pinnacle. Can't be Soldado. It's just going to be the AI. AI can't perform. AI can't do podcasts. It might be able to generate a podcast, but it can't jump on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel like I want people to fuck with me more than they fuck with my music.
Mm-hmm.
Like the music will bring them in, but then hopefully when they see everything else I'm about, they'll decide to stick around and see what else I got going on.
That makes total sense, and I can absolutely see that. So if there's anything I can do to help you out in any shape or
No,
form,
you're already
let me
doing
know,
it,
man.
bro. Appreciate you for having me on here.
Got you.
I know it's
Absolutely,
been
man.
overdue,
Yeah.
but still, it's fire of you to invite me on for real.
No, man. I appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I always like it's always interesting asking producers because some producers are super eager to do it. I know I caught you at a good time where you were like, "Yo, I'm ready to expand my personal
Yeah, it was
brand." So this
great
is
timing.
perfect. Yeah, perfect. It works for me. It's yeah. I mean, I've been honestly impressed with how many producers have just straight up said yes. Like there's some producers that I thought, like they have a good brand, but they're almost like too big for the pot. Like I don't know yet, and they're just so super down to talk, share information. Um, so yeah, I'm super blessed, and I appreciate you coming on here. Is there anything that you wanted to touch on or talk about before we start to wrap this up?
Um, Specifically, I can't really think of anything at the moment. I do feel like we covered a bunch of ground.
Hmm.
Drop some source for everyone, for the producers listening. Hopefully, they go check out those banks and plugins, find something new out of
Absolutely.
those. but nothing's coming to mind as far as a specific, unfortunately. I will say
No, it's all
though,
good.
it's good that you were hitting up people that you thought might be too big for the podcast, because you got
Yeah.
to shoot your shot no matter what. The worst thing it can do is not hit. And I caught a couple
Hmm.
of the podcast episodes before, which is why I was like eager to jump on it myself. Like I saw you had my boy Jackson Romain on here a little while
Oh, I
ago.
love Jackson,
That's my
man.
guy,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
Him,
yeah.
the Eli Brown one was fire. Like I definitely think, listen, anybody, if you get a message from Pinnacle telling you jump on the podcast.
Thank you, bro.
But yeah, man,
I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that easy. That'll be good promo.
yeah, easy, cool.
Yeah, Jackson's dope, man. Jackson, have you guys ever linked in person,
He's gonna
or is
slate me
that?
when he sees this. We've been meaning to set up a session. We're going to. We're going to.
Hmm.
It was. I think it's just finding time really, because I feel like when I've got a session, that's kind of an all day thing for me, and I tend to have like random things pop up for me during the day that I kind of have to get on with straight away. So I need a little bit of time in advance to like plan a session out. But me and
For
Jackson
sure.
will definitely link at some point soon.
I can see that for sure. Yeah.
I had that guy's a workhorse, bro. I'm telling you. I'll watch him like send back. I'll tell him I need something for someone. He'll send back like 5, 6, 7 beats within like a couple hours, bro. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just saying like he's just fire. I appreciate people who send stuff like to that extent. Like we're gonna get a lot of work done, because I feel like there's no reason to not send stuff back. Like some people are bad with sending the flips back. And for me, it's like you got two networks you could be utilizing, but you're only doing one.
Hmm. That's true. That's absolutely right. Yeah. And man, that timely thing is huge. One, I want to say Jackson's work ethic. I've heard I heard about Jackson from my boy Trestle, and Trestle always spoke about Jackson's work ethic, and then I spoke to Jackson and I saw his work ethic, and he is an absolute machine.
Yeah, fact.
Um, yeah, he's an absolute machine. Uh, and what was there was one more thing we just mentioned, and it just slipped my head, but I don't know why it won't come to me now. Oh right, networking. Yeah, so the timely thing is huge. I remember there was a point where I had to I was told to like basically a bigger producer hit me up and he's like, hey man, I need loops for so and so, and I need basically compositions for like a Maybach music type sample.
Yeah,
um And then, anyways, I went home. I was pretty tired. I wasn't even at home. I went home, and my boy was like, "Nah, bro, you gotta like, just do it. Like, send it." I was like, "I don't know, man. I'm, whatever." So I went there. I cooked up a bunch, and I realized, yo, these are actually pretty crazy, but I'm not fully sure yet. I just sent them out to him.
yeah,
Wasn't sure. Went to sleep. I woke up the next morning, and I mean, I won't get into too much detail, but it was like a pretty big deal. But he texted me. He's like, "Yo, let me sign you. You're crazy." And he was like big enough that the label at the time that he was with, I was like, yo, like that. I've wanted to kind of work with them to that extent. So
yeah.
it was mind blowing how I went home that night. I sent them that night, within hours, like you said, of him texting me. And I only sent him maybe 4 samples, but that was enough for him to be like, yo, so I think it makes a really, really big difference
That's kind
as
of how it
to
went
how people
with
proceed.
my management situation.
Hmm.
I met my manager when I first went to LA in December of 2021. There's a studio in Burbank called One Stop. I was going there
Yeah.
a lot because my boy Austin, he also goes by Main.Key as a producer. He kind of brought
Oh
me in.
yeah, bro. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Main.Key, yeah. He brought
Yeah.
me in. We've been cool for I don't know how long. He remembers. We looked it up one day, but I've already forgotten. Um, he brought me in because he was, I think, studio manager at the time. Like he was the one in charge of
Hmm.
like organizing the sessions and stuff. So
Yeah.
he took me around there. I was cooking up in there a bunch, and Kearney would always be in there as well. He was just watching me make like beats and samples and stuff, and kept saying, this is crazy. And I think the moment that he told me that made him like, yo, I gotta bring you on the team was I came in one day and he's in the lobby and he's like talking about this K Flock song that he's got, and he's been stuck on it for months. Like, it's a sample that can't get cleared because you know how it goes with New York drill. The biggest
Right.
samples known to man take way
Yeah.
more than the whole album's budget to clear. So he's like, I've been stuck on this. I asked him send me the song. I went into
Mhm.
the other room and I came back maybe like an hour and a half later and was like, yeah, I just remade the sample, put a couple different things on it. Let me know if this will work. He was like, what the fuck? Like, I've been stuck on this for a month plus easily. And he just like an
Yo.
hour or so. He tells me that's the moment when he was like, yeah. Because he said I was the quickest person to sign to him. Like, we maybe known each other for
Mm.
about a week and a half at that
Yeah.
point. But
Yeah.
yeah, everything just lined up. Shout out to Kearney.
Man, shout out to Kearney. Honestly, he's one of the best. He's one of my favorite people in the industry, and it totally speaks to the type of person he is, that you guys met for a week and y'all got along that great. I mean, it speaks to you as well, but for you to be comfortable enough to sign just meeting him,
Yeah, for sure.
that's
There's a couple other things I won't get into, but it
yeah,
basically showed me that he's not trying to just sign man and either just shelf me or
yeah,
only give me plays and opportunities once I'm signed. Like, he threw
yeah,
me a couple alley oops like off the jump, which landed. So I'm like,
yep,
if I was a bad person or if I was a dick, I could
yeah,
easily cut from this situation right now and I'd still have those placements. I could still collect, the advance and the royalties and this, that, and the third. But it kind of shows that he genuinely sees like potential in me and wants to work with me. So I
yeah.
thought that spoke a lot to him.
I completely agree. It was the same thing with me, honestly. I mean, I didn't. My situation is not like you. I'm not managed by him, obviously, but he, everything with his, like, the way he does things, way he works. Even when I went out to LA, it took him a while. Like, we had been trying to get together, and it took us a while, but we got together, and when we got together, it was incredible. Like, he had me sitting in. I think I was at One Stop. I think that's where we were. Um, and I was like in the studio with Got It, after like just chilling. Like, it was the weirdest thing, but it was like that. And even before and after that, like, we'd been in touch before LA, and he would just send me plays for no reason. Like, he had no reason to be sending me these types of plays, and he would just, he would do it because he just rocked with me, and he just wanted to give it that chance. I really think that if someone's trying to get into the industry in that type of role and like a manager role,
Try
I
and
don't know
throw
a
as
ton of
many alley oops
managers.
as you can for real. Like, your
Exactly, bro.
role, if
Like,
you're a manager or an A&R, is to be a dot connector. So don't
yeah,
limit who you throw them dots to. Try and
it's
connect as many
unreal.
people as you can to make meaningful music. You shoot 100 shots,
Yeah,
there's no way one doesn't hit.
exactly. And that's the thing. Like, when you're dealing with Kearney, you're not getting any impression that, oh, there's something in this for him. Even if there is, like, I don't get. It doesn't feel that way. The way he approaches it and goes about his business is very music and people first. Obviously he deals with his business properly,
Yeah,
but
like, don't
um,
get me wrong, there's benefits on both sides. Especially now that
mhm,
I'm under him like via management. There'll
right, of
be percentages going to him and whatnot, but that's
course,
business. Like, I don't
yeah,
expect anybody to, out of the kindness of their heart, try and like help me out. That being said, though, wasn't really an incentive for him to help me out when he first met me, and he still did. So
right,
definitely one of the solid guys for sure.
for sure. Yeah. Well, man, I honestly really appreciate your time. I'm sure there's a ton more I could talk to you about. You've got a lot of insight. And I'm sure that in the future I will have you on again if, I'm sure I'll still be doing the podcast. So I look forward to seeing what else you accomplish and the things that you do, and then we'll go from there, man.
Yeah, for
But
sure, bro.
yeah.
As
Yeah, you can
always,
go ahead and
appreciate it. Um,
mhm.
for anyone that's watching, if you're not following me already, it's at Soldado Audio on pretty much any platform you can think of. Stay tuned for more stuff. I've got a bunch of cool placements on the way. Um, yeah, stay
Yeah.
tuned.
Yeah, shout out to you, man. Thank you. And I do want to say for those that are watching, if I know he has a portal bank out right now. Is it still up?
Yep, still up,
Yeah.
still up.
So I can stand by any product that Soldado makes, bruh. Like, it is worth the purchase. He puts in so much work and effort, and there's a lot of love in his art, and there's quality everywhere. So if you're in the market for that, definitely check his
I
stuff out.
will say, tacking on to that, do have a couple products in the work. I'm working on
Hmm.
my first analog lab bank, and I'm working on
Yo,
my
let's
first
go.
like multi kit. Like I use one
Cubeatz.
shots as like so much that I figured I might as well put out my own stash of one shots and phrases and accents and stuff. So if you're a sample maker, you might want to look out for that one.
Absolutely, man. That's gonna be huge. That'll be cool.
For sure, for sure.
Thank you again, man. We'll catch you later. All right.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Be safe.
All right, too.